When we talk about global phenomena, their name is like oxygen in the entertainment industry. But honestly, behind those blinding stage lights and the mind-blowing album sales, I often feel like there's something uncanny. Sometimes I wonder, what do these god-tier people actually do when they're alone in their rooms? Are they truly ordinary humans? Or are they just a bunch of robots programmed for perfection? But after digging deeper, I actually found these absurd dark sides, habits that make you furrow your brow, and hobbies that are, frankly, a bit beyond reason for world-class superstars. There's this kind of contradiction that makes me uneasy yet dying of curiosity. They have everything, so why on earth do they choose these eccentric things as an escape? This isn't about their achievements, it's about the anomalies behind the scenes that are rarely discussed head-on. Alright, let's not beat around the bush any longer. We'd better strip it down one by one, so you understand why I call this an anomaly. Let's dive into the list that will make you see them in a whole different light.
Number 7. RM. Hunting crabs. Imagine for a second a man who stands at the center of a global hurricane, a leader with an IQ of 148 who delivers speeches at the United Nations and commands the attention of millions with a single verse, suddenly crouched down in the mud of a random riverbank or a quiet beach. This isn't some high-budget music video set or a staged publicity stunt. This is the raw, unfiltered reality of Kim Namjoon, the man the world knows as RM. What people rarely discuss is the sheer, almost jarring contrast between the rap monster persona, this titan of the music industry, and a man who becomes visibly, emotionally moved by the sight of a tiny, scurrying crustacean. At this point, I personally start to wonder if the weight of the world on his shoulders is so immense that the only way to balance it is by connecting with the smallest, most insignificant life forms he can find. It's not just a hobby, it's an obsession that borders on the surreal. While other celebrities of his stature are popping bottles in exclusive clubs or flaunting luxury car collections, Namjoon is out there Namjooning, a term that has practically become a cultural movement, which essentially means finding peace in the mundane, the artistic, and the natural. But let's be real. Seeing a man who could buy the entire beach spend hours trying to catch a tiny crab just to say, "Hello, little friend," and then let it go is an anomaly that challenges our entire perception of fame. If you think about it, this is no small matter. It's a psychological survival tactic. I find myself mesmerized by the quiet defiance in his actions. He's rejecting the hyper-commercialized expectations of a superstar to engage in something so primal and innocent. It makes me feel a mix of profound respect and a strange kind of sadness. Does he feel so misunderstood by the human world that he finds better companionship in a creature that doesn't know what a Billboard chart is? There's a story behind every vlog where he's wandering through a park or a museum, often alone, seeking a silence that most of us would find deafening. Yet he finds it therapeutic. The cultural impact of this is wild. Suddenly, you have millions of fans worldwide looking at crabs in public parks not as boring scenery, but as sacred spaces for reflection. It's a shift in social consciousness triggered by one man's refusal to be a robot. Every time he spots a crab, his voice changes, his posture softens, and for a fleeting moment, the global icon vanishes, leaving behind only a curious boy. I'm telling you, there's something deeply philosophical, almost haunting about this. It's as if he's reminding himself and all of us that no matter how high we climb, we are still part of this messy, tiny, beautiful ecosystem. It's a hobby that feels like a glitch in the celebrity matrix, and honestly, it's the most human thing I've ever witnessed in the high-pressure world of K-pop. At the end of the day, Namjoon's hunt for crabs isn't about the catch, it's about the search for a self that isn't for sale. And that, my friends, is a mystery worth pondering late at night.
Number 6. Jimin. Professional lying down.
If you've ever watched this man on stage, you've seen a literal force of nature, a contemporary dancer who moves with the fluidity of water and the precision of a diamond cutter, defying gravity and leaving every ounce of his soul on the floor. But what happens when the music stops and the stadium lights go dark? This is where things get truly baffling and honestly, a little bit eerie. We're talking about a man who has mastered the art of Raban, or lying down, to such a professional degree that it almost feels like a spiritual trance. What people rarely discuss is the sheer, jarring contrast between his explosive athletic stage presence and this absolute, unwavering commitment to total physical stillness the moment he's off camera. I've spent nights watching behind-the-scenes footage, and at this point, I personally start to wonder if this isn't just a hobby, but a vital survival mechanism for a man whose perfectionism usually pushes him to the brink of exhaustion. It's not just being lazy, that's a common misconception. When Jimin decides to lie down, he becomes part of the architecture. He can stay motionless for hours in positions that would make a normal person's limbs go numb. He once admitted in an interview that his ideal holiday consists of nothing more than waking up, eating, and immediately returning to sleep. If you think about it, this is no small matter in an industry that demands 24/7 hustle and grind culture. There's a quiet, almost confrontational defiance in his stillness. While the rest of the world is obsessed with productivity, here is one of the most famous people on the planet choosing to simply exist. I find myself reflecting on my own life, feeling guilty the moment I sit still. Yet here is Jimin, unapologetically reclaiming his time by doing absolutely nothing. Is it a psychological retreat? A way to shut out the deafening noise of global fame? It's fascinating and, frankly, a bit relatable in a deeply human way. There are moments in The Soup where the camera captures him just staring at the ceiling or melting into a sofa like a puddle, and you realize he isn't bored. He's recharging a soul that gives too much to the public. It makes me feel a strange sense of protective admiration. Most idols try to show off a cool hobby like photography or sports to stay relevant, but Jimin? He's brave enough to show us the void. He's telling us that it's okay to be still, to be silent, and to just lie down when the world gets too heavy. His professional level of lounging is a testament to his self-awareness. It's as if he's found a secret door out of the chaotic matrix of K-pop, and that door leads straight to his bed. Watching him, I'm forced to ask myself, when was the last time I allowed myself to just be, without the pressure of being someone? His hobby is a mirror reflecting our own burnout back at us, and seeing him do it with such dedication makes me want to put my phone down and just stare at the wall for a while. It's a profound statement on the necessity of silence in a world that never shuts up. He is the king of the stage, but he is also the undisputed master of the floor, and there's something incredibly poetic about that duality that I just can't get over.
Number 5. Jungkook, Seasonal Hobbies. When we talk about Jungkook, the golden Maknae tag usually comes up as a badge of honor, but if you look closer, there's a restless energy behind that title that is almost haunting. Most people see a guy who is good at everything, but what people rarely discuss is the sheer exhausting intensity of his seasonal hobbies, a cycle of hyperfixation that makes me wonder if he's trying to outrun his own shadow. It's not just that he has hobbies, it's that he dives into them with a level of obsession that borders on the manic, only to move on once he's conquered the peak. At this point, I personally start to wonder if Jungkook ever actually experiences free time in the way we do, or if his brain is simply a machine that refuses to shut down. One month, he's the next Bob Ross, creating oil paintings that look like they belong in a gallery, and the next, he's transformed into a professional braid cinematographer with his GCF series, editing videos until his eyes go red. or truly bizarre manifestation of this personality is his recent descent into the world of experimental cooking. We aren't talking about a casual Sunday brunch here. We're talking about a man who will go live at 4 a.m. when the rest of the world is dreaming just to demonstrate the exact scientific ratio of perilla oil to soy sauce for a specific bowl of makguksu. I watched those live streams and I found myself feeling a mix of deep admiration and a strange kind of concern. Why is the world's biggest pop star in his kitchen at dawn meticulously explaining the texture of ramyun porridge to millions of people? If you think about it, this is no small matter. It's a peek into the loneliness of the elite. When you have everything, the only thing left to conquer is the mundane. I see him cooking the same dish over and over, obsessing until it's perfect, and I realize that for Jungkook, a recipe isn't just food, it's a problem to be solved. The social impact of this is absolutely chaotic. He mentions one specific brand of sauce or a type of noodle, and suddenly, entire supply chains across South Korea collapse because fans buy everything out. He's literally shifting the economy because he had a late-night craving. I find myself reflecting on the pressure he must feel to always be the best at whatever he touches. Even his relaxation is high performance. It's a confrontational type of hobby. He's essentially showing us that he can master our daily lives better than we can, all while being a global icon. There's something deeply human, yet slightly uncanny about seeing him so focused on a bowl of noodles that he forgets the camera is even there. It's as if he's searching for a sense of normalcy in the most repetitive tasks possible. Is it a way to ground himself, or is it just the curse of a man who can't stand being mediocre at anything? Every time he starts a new season of a hobby, I feel a rush of curiosity. What's next? Pottery? Astrophysics? Deep sea diving? He's a man who lives 1,000 lives in one, and while it looks like fun from the outside, the psychological weight of that constant search is something that keeps me up at night. He isn't just a singer, he's a collector of skills, and his kitchen experiments are the most intimate, strange, and fascinating window we have into his beautiful, chaotic mind. It's not just a hobby, it's a fever that never quite breaks, and watching him navigate it is like watching a masterclass in the restless human spirit. Number 4. Taeyoung, playing classical instruments. There is something inherently romantic yet deeply unsettling about Kim Taeyoung. In a world of synthesized beats, perfectly tuned vocals, and digital perfection, he is a man who seems to belong to a smoky jazz club in Paris circa 1950 rather than a modern-day stadium. What people rarely discuss is the sheer audacity, the almost reckless bravery of picking up a trumpet or a saxophone as a hobby in the middle of a global pop career. Let's be honest, the trumpet is not a cool instrument by modern standards. It's loud, it's incredibly difficult to master, and if you mess up even slightly, everyone in a 3-block radius knows about it. At this point, I personally start to wonder if Taeyoung is intentionally choosing the hardest, most unglamorous path just to see if he can find a way to make it beautiful. This isn't just a hobby, it's a window into a soul that feels profoundly out of place in the digital age. I remember watching him struggle with those first few notes, the way his face would turn bright red and the sound would come out like a dying goose. The other members would burst out laughing, the tension would break, and for a fleeting moment, the V persona, the world's most handsome man, the untouchable icon, was replaced by a guy just trying to find the right frequency in a piece of brass. But if you think about it, this is no small matter. It's a quiet rebellion against the perfection that the K-pop industry demands 24/7. He's willing to look uncool, to sound bad, and to be the butt of the joke, all for the sake of an instrument that connects him to a different era. There's a certain melancholy in his obsession with jazz. It's a genre of music built on pain, improvisation, and raw soul. And seeing him practice alone in the woods during In the Soup makes me feel a strange, heavy emotion. I find myself asking, is he lonely in his genius?
Or is he just so far ahead of us that we can't see the world through his vintage filtered eyes? I reflect on the psychological toll of being a visual icon. When everyone only wants to look at your face, maybe you choose an instrument that forces them to listen to your breath, your struggle, and your effort instead. His dedication to the saxophone, which he studied long before he was a star, and his later shift to the trumpet shows a man who is deeply committed to the gritty, physical reality of sound. It's confrontational, really. He's saying, I am more than a polished product. I am this breath, this effort, this imperfect melody. The social impact of this is fascinating. Suddenly, you see millions of young fans who have never heard of Miles Davis or Chet Baker looking up classical jazz history just because Taeyong mentioned it. He's bridging a gap between generations that seemed impossible to close, but he does it with such casual indifference to the rules of being a pop star. He doesn't just play when he's good, he plays when he's learning, making those shrill, ear-piercing sounds that make his bandmates cringe and laugh. It makes me question the nature of talent itself. Is it something you're born with, or is it this relentless, almost absurd pursuit of a specific feeling? Taeyong's hobby isn't a side project, it's his heartbeat. Every time a sharp, accidental note pierces through a quiet room during a live stream, I don't hear a mistake. I hear a man refusing to be a robot. I hear a human being trying to catch a ghost inside a brass tube, and that search is what makes him so undeniably, hauntingly real. He isn't just an idol playing a role. He's an artist searching for a truth that can only be found in the vibration of a reed or the press of a valve. And that, my friends, is a mystery that makes him the most intriguing man in the room.
Number 3. J-Hope, customizing items and figure collection. When you see J-Hope, you see an explosion of color and sunshine, a man who seems to vibrate with pure, unadulterated joy that can light up an entire stadium. But I'm telling you, if you look past that blinding smile and the fluid movements of the group's main dancer, there is a level of precision underneath that is honestly a bit terrifying. What people rarely discuss is the almost surgical obsession he has with his physical environment and the objects within it. We're talking about a man who treats a basic hoodie like a canvas for a high art masterpiece and a shelf of plastic figures like a sacred, untouchable altar. This isn't just collecting toys or painting shoes like any other hobbyist. This is a manifestation of a mind that demands absolute, unwavering order in a world that is fundamentally chaotic and unpredictable. At this point, I personally start to wonder if his hobby is actually a vital psychological maneuver to exert control over a life that essentially belongs to the public eye. Think about it. As a global idol, his schedule, his public persona, and even his movements are choreographed to the millisecond. So, when he retreats into his private studio, Hope World, he enters a realm where he is the sole dictator of reality. He can spend hours, and I mean literally hours, of his precious limited free time carefully gluing a single tiny bead on a piece of fabric or repositioning a bear brick figure until it is perfectly, symmetrically aligned with its neighbor. If one of those figures was tilted even a single degree, would he be able to sleep? If you think about it, this is no small matter. It's a psychological anchor that keeps him grounded. I find myself watching his vlogs or social media updates where he shows off his latest custom work, and instead of just seeing cool streetwear, I see a man who is perhaps using these minute details to keep the noise of fame at bay. It's confrontational in a way. He's showing us a side of himself that is so meticulous it feels almost robotic, yet so deeply creative that it's undeniably human. I reflect on the sheer patience it takes to custom paint a pair of expensive sneakers. One wrong stroke, one smudge of paint, and the whole thing is ruined. But Hoset doesn't seem to make those mistakes. His aesthetic is a curated universe where everything has a designated, logical spot. There's something deeply emotional and almost lonely about the image of him hunched over a table, lost in the micro details of a pattern while the world outside screams his name. Is he trying to stitch his own private identity into these clothes? Is he trying to prove that he's not just a performer, but a builder of tangible, perfect worlds? The social and cultural impact of his style is undeniable. He's redefined what streetwear means for an entire generation, turning DIY into a high-fashion statement that fans across the globe try to emulate. But for me, the most nyelene part is the silence required for this hobby. For someone so famous for his loud laughter and high energy, his true passion requires a deafening, intense silence and a stillness that contradicts his sunshine persona. It makes me feel a strange sense of awe mixed with a little bit of anxiety. How much internal pressure must he be under that he needs this level of perfection in his downtime just to feel sane? Every time he reveals a new piece of his collection, I don't just see a collector. I see a man who has mastered the art of being human in a very structured, very beautiful, and very intense way. He's not just decorating his life, he's designing a sanctuary where every millimeter matters, and that kind of dedication is both inspiring and a little bit haunting. He isn't just a dancer, he's a visual curator of his own soul, and watching that focus in action is one of the most mesmerizing, albeit slightly unsettling things about the man we think we know as J-Hope. This is the hidden labor of a perfectionist who refuses to let even a single bead fall out of place. And in that obsession, we find the true, complex heart of an artist who is always, always watching the details.
Number 2. Suga woodworking. When we talk about Min Yoongi, we're talking about a man who has made a career out of burning the industry with his sharp tongue and world-class production. But there is a side to him that is so quiet, so unexpectedly grounded, that it feels like a glitch in the celebrity timeline. What people rarely discuss is the almost eerie transformation he undergoes when he picks up a piece of raw wood and a sheet of sandpaper. This isn't just Suga being Suga. This is a global superstar retreating into a prehistoric manual labor of love that feels completely out of sync with the digital fast lane he lives in. At this point, I personally start to wonder if the noise of being a producer, the constant digital bleeps, the heavy bass, and the endless track layering becomes so overwhelming that he needs the physical resistance of wood just to feel something real. During In the Soup, we saw him sitting there for hours, literally hours, with a face so expressionless it was almost stone cold, just sanding a cutting board. Think about it. While other idols are out there trying to maintain their it boy status by hitting the gym or playing sports for the cameras, Suga is sitting in a corner, covered in wood dust, doing the most grandpa-like task imaginable. It's a hobby that feels profoundly nyelene because it's so anti-celebrity. If you think about it, this is no small matter. It's a form of meditation that borders on the obsessive. I find myself reflecting on the psychological weight of his role in the group. As the guy who always has to be the cool-headed realist, maybe he finds solace in the fact that Wood doesn't talk back, doesn't demand a hit song, and doesn't care about his fame. There's something deeply emotional about the fact that he doesn't just make these for himself. He meticulously crafts these aesthetic cutting boards just to give them away to the other members. It's a silent, tactile way of saying, "I care about you," without having to use the words he usually saves for his lyrics. I find myself mesmerized by his focus. He sands that wood with the same intensity he uses to write a chart-topping rap verse. It's confrontational in its simplicity. He's essentially telling the world that he doesn't need to glitz to be fulfilled. But the more I watch him, the more I start to ask, is this a way to sand down his own rough edges? Is he projecting his own need for smooth, quiet perfection onto these pieces of timber? The cultural impact of seeing a Gen Z millennial icon embrace old man hobbies is fascinating. He's making it cool to be boring, making it trendy to be slow and deliberate.
But the voiceover in my head can't help but feel a bit of a chill seeing him so isolated in his task. There's a story behind every stroke of that sandpaper, a story of a man who just wants to create something that will last longer than a digital file. Every time he presents a finished board, I don't just see a kitchen tool, I see a piece of Yoongi's quiet struggle for peace. He isn't just a rapper, he's an artisan of the mundane, and that dedication to a simple block of wood is perhaps the most profound rebellion against the chaos of his own life that I've ever seen. It's not just a hobby, it's a sanctuary built of sawdust and silence, and it makes me respect him in a way that his music alone never could. He is the king of the studio, but in that quiet corner with his wood, he's just a man trying to find a smooth surface in a very rough world.
Number 1. Jin, God-tier gamer. Finally, we reached the summit of this list, and honestly, it's a place where the line between a global superstar and a total digital addict becomes completely blurred. We're talking about the man known to the world as worldwide handsome, a guy whose face is literally considered a work of art. But if you step behind the velvet curtain, you'll find a hardcore nerd who is more concerned with his character level than his red carpet appearance. What people rarely discuss is the sheer, unadulterated dedication Jin has for the game MapleStory. This isn't just some casual mobile game he plays while waiting for his makeup to be done. We are talking about a lifelong, high-stakes obsession that has spanned over 2 decades. At this point, I personally start to wonder if the Jin we see on TV is just a side quest, while his real life is happening inside a computer screen. If you think about it, this is no small matter. He's admitted to spending his allowance and even his early career earnings on in-game items since he was a student. While other idols were out trying to fit into the cool kid mold, Jin was busy grinding for experience points. I find myself reflecting on the psychological impact of this. For a man who lives in a world where everyone judges his every move, perhaps the digital world of MapleStory is the only place where he feels he can truly win on his own terms. It's a confrontational hobby because he doesn't hide it. He embraces it with a passion that is almost unsettling. The most nyelene, or truly bizarre part of this story, is that he didn't just stop at being a fan, he took it to a corporate level. He literally became a special intern at Nexon, the multi-billion-dollar company that created the game, just so he could have a say in how the game is designed. I watched the footage of him in those office meetings, and I realized he wasn't just being a celebrity guest. He was talking technical details, character stats, and player experience with the intensity of a CEO. It makes me feel a mix of hilarity and genuine shock. Can you imagine being a developer and having one of the most famous men on Earth tell you that your game's balance is off? The social impact is wild. He single-handedly kept this classic game relevant for a new generation, proving that being a nerd isn't just okay, it's a badge of honor. I find myself asking, does he see his idol life as a game too? Is he just leveling up in real life while his heart stays in that pixelated world? There's a story behind every late-night gaming session he mentions, a story of a man who refuses to grow out of the things that make him happy, no matter how much fame he acquires. It's an anomaly that feels strangely grounded. Seeing him get more excited about a rare item drop than a music award makes me question our entire definition of success. He isn't just a singer or a visual icon, he is a god-tier gamer who happens to be a global idol. His hobby isn't a distraction, it's his foundation. Watching him navigate the world with the confidence of someone who has already beaten the final boss is both inspiring and deeply, wonderfully weird. He is the ultimate proof that you can be the most handsome man in the world and still be the biggest geek in the room. And honestly, that's the kind of authenticity that makes this whole BTS phenomenon so much more than just music.